All right, I think we're finally at a time where it may make more sense in certain scenarios, most scenarios, to rent an electric car versus a regular car. You ready? Let me explain. It's March, which means college basketball. Now, let's just say you're like me and college is a thing of the past, but you still want to make the tournament interesting by betting on your favorite teams. Well, good news, that's where today's video sponsor, DraftKings Sportsbook, has got your back. Tournament time is officially here, so fill out your brackets and place your bets on who you think will rise to the top with my partners at DraftKings Sportsbook. Right now, all new customers who bet just $5 will get $150 in bonus bets instantly. Download the DraftKings app now and sign up using my code SSR. Stay in on the action and use your $150 in bonus bets on DraftKings same-game parlays for a shot at an even bigger payout. Combine multiple bets together from the same game, including total points scored, number of rebounds by your favorite player, and more. If sports betting is not yet available in your state, don't worry. You can join in on all the fun with DraftKings Daily Fantasy and still have a shot to win cash prizes. So download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now. New customers bet just $5 on any wager, and you're going to get $150 in bonus bets instantly by using my promo code SSR. That's promo code SSR only at DraftKings Sportsbook. The crown is yours. What's going on, guys? Rob Ferretti down here in Florida, and I rented a Polestar 2. It used to be a Volvo, now it's Polestar, it's its own brand. But I wanted to determine whether or not it made sense yet to rent a fully electric car, versus renting a gas-powered car. Now, they are renting at the same price. The question is, which one is smarter, which one is more convenient? And is there this one-size-fits-all that it's always better to take a gas car or it's always better to take an electric car? Let's discuss. So let's talk about the car first off. I've only driven Teslas. I own 2 of them, but I've never driven anything outside of that. So I'm only familiar with Teslas and the Tesla charging network. This was a Polestar 2, which it was nice enough. I don't know what it costs. I know it generally has a range of about 260 or 280 miles. But when I'm receiving a car with 80% battery, which is what you're going to get when you rent a car from a major car rental company, it's going to be at a lower range. So you can expect to get the car with around 200 miles, and that is generally sufficient to get you where you're going. My specific trip that I was in Florida for, I was going from Orlando down to Sebring, Florida, which Sebring is right in between Fort Myers, West Palm Beach, Tampa, and Orlando. It's 2 hours from all of them. So it's like legitimately the taint of Florida. It's like right in the middle, there's nothing really around. But it's also 90 miles from Orlando, which is what I flew into and I was flying back out of. So that was at least a 180-mile round trip, which is not something that a lot of people would probably feel comfortable with, especially going somewhere with not major highway systems. You're sort of worried about charging networks and the inconvenience of driving an electric car. But a benefit to electric cars that most people don't realize is electric cars are generally built around buildings, right? So there's charging stations in all these different places. So you go to Disney World, you go to the mall, you go to sporting venues, and there's generally electric vehicle charging stations right next to like the handicap spots. So instead of parking all the way at the end of the lot, you can go and you can say, hey, where's the electric vehicle parking? They'll guide you right up front and you have a short little walk in. It's a little benefit and a little red carpet and velvet rope thing that electric cars provide that standard rental cars will not get you. However, as I said, this is the taint of Florida, and I was at Sebring. I went and asked the parking attendants, hey, where's the electrical vehicle charging station here? And they all just, like belly laughed, like we're in a sitcom. They belly laughed, and I started belly laughing, and I was like, I get it. And it's weird, but it's like little Redneckville, so it is what it is. So from there, I was like, all right, well, I got down here. I had 200 miles of charge to start. I'm down here, it says I've got 110 miles to go, and I've got a 90-mile trip home. Let me just drive back to the hotel. There's a charger at the hotel, and I'll deal with it there. However, the car had different thoughts. It's like, well, you're going to get back to the hotel with 2%. We're going to bring you to a charger. And I was like, all right, well, you do you, and I'll go along for the ride. All right, so it was very convenient that it's like, all right, to make your trip, even though you'll make it, you're only going to make it back with 2%. Let's bring you to a charging station. Problem is, charging station, it says, is on the other side of that gate, which is probably not a public charging station because it's locked up outside of a hospital at night. So it has done nothing more than waste my time. That's an issue in my world. Now I've just wasted time and wasted battery to be annoyed. All right, made it to my hotel. And get the free charger. And let's see what we're doing here. We charging? Show me what's up. This is my first non-Tesla charger. It says available. I'm plugged in, but it just went down. Okay, so even though this is a free station, oh, maybe it's not a free station. Well, anyway, it says an hour and 30 minutes to charge. I'm at 8% now. I had to add a credit card payment because I didn't have my credit card linked to my ChargePoint account. But this is if it's an hour and a half to charge to full, even to get it up to like 30% is frustrating. All right, here we are next morning. Summary of charge, $6.76. And I put it up to like 57%. I have to return it with 20%. Normally, if they weren't being cool, I would have to return it with 85%. But they were pretty cool about it. Now, some things that I realized about the car that I don't deal with in my Tesla is it didn't have the regenerative braking. At least it wasn't activated while I was driving it. I didn't get in the car to tinker. I drive rental cars the same way I drive anything else. I get in and I drive. I don't play with the buttons. I don't try to familiarize myself. I don't link everything to the car. I just get in and use it to go from point A to point B. And in this case, I actually had to use the brakes where in my Tesla I generally don't. And that was a little bit disappointing. And I don't know if it was normal or not, but here's what I got to experience. All right, so this video is not about driving the Polestar or what my thoughts on it are, but for a lot of people that are not used to driving electric, it drives different than the Tesla in that whatever mode it's in now, and I didn't play with any mode, and I don't expect people that rent vehicles are gonna play with the modes, but it doesn't decel automatically for regenerative braking. And that refills the battery as you go, but it doesn't seem like this one has that feature or that feature enabled. The other thing I noticed is that the brakes on this, now the Tesla, I rarely use my brakes, but if this one, you would be using your brakes even with 21,000 miles, it would make more sense as a heavier vehicle that the brakes are not that great. But let me just step on the brakes and show you. Did you hear that? That's it stops, but the brakes are severely warped. And I noticed that the first time I had to step on the brakes in Florida traffic. And when you're doing light braking like this, not a big deal. But when you do anything over half throttle, half depressing of the pedal, then you receive that violent shaking, as we're about to see coming up to this traffic light here. I will show you yet again. And you do get this sensation that you are not going to stop in time. Luckily, if you go from half pedal to 3/4 or full pedal, it actually overpowers the warped brakes. But I don't know if that's a condition of this vehicle and that's how they all are, or that's just this one rental. Now, one of the problems I have with my Tesla is the range estimate is a little wacky. It's all over the place. When I drove a Chevy Volt, which was the first iteration, it was a hybrid gas and electric car, also extreme variations in what the stated range was and what the actual electric range was. With this one, hit a little bit different. This car is very accurate with the range. We were driving no more than maybe 85 miles an hour, but when we got the vehicle at 80% charge, it told us it was like 210 miles of range, and we drove approximately spot on to 190 miles of driving to use up 190 miles of range. So that is something to be said, that if it does say there's 200 in it, as long as you don't drive like a jackass, it'll be 200 miles of range, an actual 200 miles of range. So it charged while I slept. I drove it to the airport the next day. They delivered it with 80% charge. I had to return it with 20. I brought it back with like 50%. I was just curious how much it was going to charge, or at least charge me to fill it up, because this is the first time I was actually like paying a non-Tesla charger to charge it, and filling it up to like 59 or 60%, I think cost me less than $7. So bringing it back with more battery than I needed to bring in it was fine. It's a big positive right there that you could bring a vehicle back and not really have to pay for the fuel, especially if you're local. So if you were going to do the equivalent of driving, say, 250 miles like I drove, and the cost of me charging more than I had to, it could have been about $2, but I spent $7, would have been in gas, just say 25 miles per gallon, just say 10 gallons at between $3.50 and $5 a gallon, depending on where you are, 'cause that's the US. So you're talking $35 to $50 versus $7. And that's a big deal. And if you go to a car rental company and you don't return your car back with a full tank of gas, they charge you like $8 or $10 a gallon. So they really gouge you when it comes to not bringing back a car full. With the electric car, they give it to you pretty much full, and they let you return it pretty much empty, and you save all the money there. So right there, if you're doing a trip where it makes sense to drive locally, you have a charger at your hotel, whatever, you're not going more than just say 200 miles in one direction, it makes sense if you're driving 200 miles in one direction and you've got a charger at your hotel, no harm, no foul. It charges while you sleep. You don't have to worry about the charging network and the speed of the charging network, which is the only downside right now to the electric vehicles. And 9 out of 10 times, and I know you don't want to hear this, 9 out of 10 times when it comes to selecting a rental car, if they're the same price, I think an electric vehicle is going to be better. The only time it would not is if you're doing like a legitimate road trip and driving, say, 300, 400, 500 miles in a day, in which case it's going to be less convenient to have an electric vehicle. The range is accurate, the charging network is there, so you're never really going to get stuck. It'll just be more inconvenient. But the convenience and the fuel savings of, in this situation where I spent $110 to rent a vehicle versus $150 if I had to return it with a full tank of gas, that's pretty material, right? That's $40 on a 100 and whatever. It's a $40 savings on a $110 rental, so to speak. So that's great. And if you're looking at it for dollars and cents and you don't care, you're looking for just a rental car to get you from point A to point B, you're not going to be in bad shape if you go electric. So Rob Ferretti, going all electric when possible, and the rate is the same, and that's something you guys should probably seriously consider. We're at a point where you shouldn't worry about like, oh, gas. Like if you're renting something fun, I get it. Don't go electric. But if you're just going to Disney or somewhere else, there's a lot more positives than there are negatives to renting electric over gas. Thanks for watching. See you next time.